Hello YouTubers, I want to welcome you to another edition of Bargain Bin Gear. And in this episode we're going to look at something that may potentially save some of you a lot of money. If you remember, a long time ago I did a video on the Boss sy200 guitar synthesizer pedal. While I really like the Boss sy200, I wish they had made it stereo instead of mono, which is sad on their part, but anyway. Now, the sy200 has a lot of presets, 128 of them in fact, right? A lot of different sounds, 128 different sounds. And if you have them on a pedal board and you want MIDI control, it does have MIDI. However, of course, there's always a catch. The pedal is very small, and I guess it didn't have space for standard MIDI jacks, right? MIDI! 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 So instead what they had is this 3.5 millimeter 1/8 inch jack, as you'd find on a little tiny headphone earbuds and things. Little jack on one end and MIDI on the other end, right? I guess the original jack MIDI jack wouldn't fit on the pedal, so there's two of them, in and an out. Now you would think, oh, okay, so then a standard MIDI cable would work. But no. And in fact, it's very well known, really, that the Boss sy200 does not use standard MIDI cables. In fact, for MIDI to work, you need a specific type of cable, of MIDI cable. And they suggest that the only way it's going to work is with the Boss MIDI cables, right? And of course, those cables are at inflated prices. You know, basically a set of cables is going to set you back $40, maybe $50. Now, wait a minute, these are MIDI cables, right? I mean, they should be like, $5-10 at most. But you have to use the Boss specific cables. Now listen, the pedal was expensive enough, Do they really need to gouge you for the extra cables, And the prices are high on those. So, I wasn't very happy about that. So I did a little bit of research and tried to discover why a standard MIDI cable wouldn't work. And guess what? Crazy, here's what I found. There are actually, these are TRS MIDI cables. And you can tell because on the little headphone jack end, they look like stereo jacks. They have the two little black rings. And if you've been following the channel, we've run into that with quite a few adapters and things. So in any case, it turns out that on these TRS MIDI cables, right, well, there's a type A and a type B. Who knew? Not very many people. And in fact, for years now, really, the type B has been the standard pretty much. Right? Rarely would you run into a type A MIDI cable. But this is the Boss sy200 uses the type A TRS MIDI cable. Right? In other words, you would have to buy the Boss cable. Now, I did some shopping around, and I've got standard MIDI cables laying about, but they're certainly not type A TRS cable, especially with the little, jack thing, the little earbud end. I just have standard MIDI cables. So I went shopping around, and I had gotten this package at my doorstep unexpectedly, and I thought, surely, how great this is going to hold all kinds of pedals and stuff. However, I was sorely disappointed. And in fact, when I opened it, I was very discouraged and insulted to discover that this is a color guard, is intended for the qualitative detection of colorectal neoplasia, associated DNA markers, and for the presence of occult hemoglobin in human stool. In other words, this is a damn stool sample kit. Can you believe that? I went for the doctor checkup, you know, and I'm at that age. So they wanted to run a test, so they sent me this. Thanks a lot. It's not the unboxing I was hoping for. Now this is the package I was hoping for. Okay. So I had ordered this adapter, right? Midi A TRS, you know, to 3.5 millimeter adapter. And if it worked with the Boss sy200 instead of buying the Boss MIDI cable, which was unfortunately quite expensive, that'd be great, because this is like 1/3 the price, and it's arrived. So we're going to have an unboxing here. Now please don't try this at home. Only trained professionals should attempt. Here it is. Wow. And by the way, this is a recreation because I had already opened it, but still. So here's the adapter. Wow. Notice on one end it has a MIDI female adapter, type A, and here's the little 3.5 millimeter adapter, headphone type adapter, plugs into the sy200, and this should plug into the MIDI cable. Okay, now as a free bonus, wow, I'd gotten this from Sweetwater and sent me a wonderful thank you card, right? Returns and exchanges. What is the Sweetwater difference? We're here to help. Notice a Sweetwater sticker. Fantastic, look at that. Wow. But there's something else in the bag too. Now, this is quite the bonus. And let's take a look at what it is. Ready? Wow. Look at that. It looks like a little baggie of a complimentary candy. Our sweet way of saying thank you, Sweetwater. Well, that's almost as good as the purchase itself. Wow. So of course we'll have an unboxing here, an unbagging, but here we go. Wow. Wow, what's that? So let us attempt an opening here of the complimentary candy. That's kind of hard to open though. Damn. Come on. Here it is. We will try it. Oh my. Oh. So much better than ordinary candy. Complimentary candy. It tastes so much better. Oh. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Yes, it's complimentary candy. It tastes so much better than normal candy. Alright, now here's an ordinary Midi cable. Right? And you'll see it's got a big plug. Won't fit in the Boss sy200 jack. So you've got to use either a cable, which Boss will sell you, or this little adapter, hopefully. Remains to be seen if it works. But I guess the first step would be to plug the Midi cable into the jack, and that part works. And remember, this is type A right here. This is just a normal Midi cable on the other side here, and then the little adapter which will plug into the sy200. Oh man, it's that complimentary candy. Can't get enough of it. There's just something about it that's so much better than normal candy. Okay. Alright. So, here's the deal. This little adapter, I think it was about $6. Now, the little Midi cable, I'm not sure what I paid for that. It's been about 3 years, so not very much, so probably about the same. So this should take care of the problem of using Midi with the Boss sy200. You know, I had no idea that there was a Midi A and a Midi B. Who would have guessed? You know, before it used to be just a Midi cable and that's it. So we're going to plug this into the sy200 and we're going to use the Soulman Midi controller and plug it in and see what happens. If it works, it's a great deal. Man, this candy is really good. Okay. Now, here's what I've done. Taken the little adapter, hooked it up to a Midi cable, which runs out to the Soulman Midi controller. And then here's the Boss sy200 right here. And if you look on the side of it, instead of Midi jacks, it's kind of hard to see. There's not really a lot of light there. Hold on. Where is it? There it is. As you'll see here, if you look closely, well, there's no Midi jacks. So instead they have this little 3/4 inch. And this is where I plugged in, right here, our little adapter from Sweetwater. And there's the little adapter. So we'll plug that into the Midi in. Alright, there we go. It's plugged in. So the adapter fits, but not only is it the adapter we're concerned about, it's also the fact that the Boss sy200 requires Midi A instead of Midi B TRS. And so as a test, we're going to run it, see if it works. So there's preset A, or preset 1, I'm sorry. I called it Floyd. Okay, I'm going to hit the very first button here on the Midi source audio, right? And it's going to be our first preset. Alright, so on preset 1, I'm going to hit the Midi controller switch right here. And there we go. It just changed presets to 62. And now I'm going to hit the second switch. See what happens. And there we go. Alright, so this is just the very first preset. So on the, it's just showing 1, right? So there's the first preset. So I'm going to hit the first button, and that'll take us to preset 62. There we go. Hit the second switch. Now this takes us to a totally different preset. Cool. So anyway, it's really cool to be able to just hit the switch and have it go to different presets. Okay, and that's preset 3, and if I wanted to go to this other sound, which I'll hit right here, this one, alright, and if I was on the other sound, this one, and then I wanted to go to the other sound, not only, if I didn't have Midi, that would mean that I would not only have to turn the knob on the Boss sy200 all the way to the exact number, which in this case is to go to 3 to 62. Right, that'd take a very long time, you know. And if you wanted to make a quick switch, you know, from like, and then quickly switch to right, you'd have to use the knob very quickly, whereas here you just hit a button and you're done. So I think that's really cool, really cool, and it works very well. That's an arpeggiator, and it's, remember that smart clock we used in previous videos? Well, we're going to use it for that, to set the tempo. You know, I don't particularly like that preset, but, so anyway, rather than, yeah, what I'm doing right now is dialing in the different sounds, you know, it's kind of, vintage John Carpenter kind of sound, you know. Okay. But then if I want to go back to that other sound, right, just hit a switch and... hit another switch. Anyway, you get the idea. And so when you add the reverb and things and you're playing, you know, whatever it is, so adding a little reverb to sy200, and now with the Midi capabilities, you can play something like... quickly switch over to a different sound. Over to the preset. Pretty cool. So there we go. That works perfectly. So that little adapter's a success. And I didn't have to shell out, you know, big money for the Boss Midi cables, which to me is kind of a scam. You know? Instead, I just bought the little adapter, and it works great. And if a Midi cable goes bad, hopefully it won't be the adapter, and you can just replace the Midi cable, instead of having to shell out even more money for the Boss cables. So there you go. So that's type A Midi. Right? I think most other things take just normal Midi, which I guess is type B. But not the Boss sy200. If you try it with a type B cable, it's just not going to work. So there you go. So this was a success. Right? Sweetwater should be commended, especially with the bonus of the complimentary candy. So this adapter is a go. It's a good deal. Very inexpensive in comparison to having to buy the Boss cables. and things. And personally, I like little adapters better, because if it breaks, you know, if that boss cable breaks, well, you'd have to replace it with another boss cable, you know. And those are harder to find, whereas here you can use just a standard MIDI cable as long as the adapter still works, you know. And I will say the little cable between the MIDI part of the adapter and the headphone jack is pretty small, kind of thinnish, but it's okay. So I'm still working on this complimentary piece of candy. In any case, there you go. So that's a success. So as far as I can tell, as long as you buy a MIDI Type A adapter, right, for the Boss sy200, the MIDI part of it will work, which is great. Alright, there you go. I wanted to show you that. Okay. See you next time.